Welcome back to Universal Insight. Please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon for more updates. I bet you didn't know how a border closure could create such chaos. The October wind cut through Abbotsford, British Columbia, rattling windows and sending leaves skittering across the pavement. But it was the silence at the border that truly chilled. A silence heavy with uncertainty, stretching across the empty lanes and echoing in the stillness of the night. Semi-trucks stretched for miles, engines off, their headlights dimmed. Drivers clustered in anxious groups, sharing rumors and fears, their breath visible in the cold air. These trucks, lifelines for Alaska, were stranded. Canada had abruptly closed the border, severing the main land route north. The sudden closure left everyone stunned, with no clear explanation, no warning, no time to prepare. Confusion turned to anger as drivers demanded answers, but none came. Frank, a trucker hauling groceries to Anchorage, was stuck just yards from the border, his perishable cargo and schedule in jeopardy. He checked his watch, knowing every minute lost meant spoiled food and empty shelves. Families in RVs and essential workers were turned away, their plans upended. Some had driven for days, only to be told to turn back. Electronic signs flashed, Alaska-bound travel prohibited. The message was stark, leaving no room for hope or negotiation. The closure rippled across every crossing, stranding thousands. Highways became parking lots, and border towns filled with stranded travelers. Armed guards handed out pamphlets, but offered no answers. The pamphlets listed rules, but not reasons. This wasn't a weather delay, it was a political wall, invisible, but impenetrable. The border, once a line on a map, had become a barrier in every sense. The world's longest undefended border was suddenly closed. Its openness replaced by suspicion and fear. For Alaska, the consequences were just beginning. Supplies would run low, and uncertainty would grow with each passing day. The arteries of commerce had been cut, and a new crisis was unfolding, one that would test the resilience of everyone connected by this border. The silence at the border was the sound of a continent dividing, a moment when history shifted, and lives were changed forever. This shutdown was months in the making, the result of a slow-burning conflict that simmered beneath the surface for much of the year. Behind closed doors, officials on both sides scrambled to find common ground, but every attempt seemed to deepen the divide. The situation was fueled by escalating US-Canada tensions, as diplomatic relations grew increasingly strained and trust began to erode. President Trump's tariff threats on Canadian goods sparked outrage in Ottawa, with his administration doubling down on protectionist policies that rattled the economic partnership. Trudeau's government responded with retaliatory tariffs and a united front, rallying Canadians around the idea of standing up to their southern neighbor. The tipping point came with Trump's executive order to fast-track the Ambler mining road through Alaska, reviving a controversial project that had been blocked for environmental reasons for years. The U.S. then took a direct stake in the Canadian company behind the project, stunning financial markets and infuriating Canadians who saw it as an overreach. Environmental groups and First Nations saw it as a betrayal, warning that the project threatened caribou migration routes and put indigenous lands and traditions at risk. With tariff threats mounting and the Ambler Road moving forward, British Columbia's premier made good on his warning, blockading the border to send a clear message. Canada framed the closure as a necessary response to what it called American aggression and environmental disregard, insisting it was the only way to protect its sovereignty and natural heritage. President Trump's response was immediate and explosive, capturing the attention of both the American public and the world. He wasted no time in making his outrage known, determined to show strength in the face of what he saw as a direct challenge. On the White House lawn, he called Canada's move a betrayal and accused Prime Minister Trudeau of holding Alaska hostage, using language that shocked even seasoned political observers. He threatened to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian autos, a move that would send shockwaves through the North American economy and put thousands of jobs at risk on both sides of the border. Trump also announced a sweeping review of all cross-border agreements, including the crucial NORAD Defense Pact, raising concerns about the future of US-Canada cooperation. On social media, he declared, "No more free rides, they will pay for this." His tweets quickly went viral, fueling heated debates and trending across platforms. Markets and diplomats reeled as the administration scrambled for a response, with uncertainty rippling through financial centers and diplomatic circles alike. Trump's team urgently considered airlifting supplies to Alaska, determined to show that the state would not be left isolated or vulnerable. administration officials condemned what they called Canada's environmental blackmail, accusing Ottawa of using ecological concerns as a weapon in a high-stakes political game. Trump defended the Ambler Road as vital for national security and American jobs, dismissing environmental concerns as secondary to the needs of the country and the people of Alaska. He painted himself as a strong, decisive leader, rallying his base against what he called an ungrateful neighbor, and promising to stand firm no matter the cost. The rhetoric signaled a major confrontation, not just a trade dispute, setting the stage for a dramatic escalation between two longtime allies. For Alaska's 730,000 residents, the blockade was a gut punch. The state relies on the Alaska Highway through Canada for food, supplies, and medicine. Within hours, panic buying emptied shelves in Anchorage and Fairbanks. The Alaska Trucking Association warned the supply chain was grinding to a halt. Air and sea routes exist, but they're costly and limited. Businesses faced crippling losses as shipments stalled. Families worried about medical supplies and winter essentials. The blockade exposed Alaska's vulnerability, turning distant politics into a daily crisis. Some supported Trump's development push, but many questioned the cost. Alaska was now forced to confront its isolation and its dependence on a fragile border. Canadian officials stood firm, calling the blockade a necessary response to U.S. aggression. Trudeau declared Canada would not allow its economy or environment to be threatened. BC's premier cited the Ambler Road's risks to Indigenous lands and salmon rivers. Environmental groups and First Nations applauded the move, seeing it as overdue protection of their rights. Canada insisted it remained open to dialogue, but would not negotiate under threat. The blockade was leverage, a message that partnership must be mutual. The era of taking Canadian cooperation for granted was over. As of October 11th, the border remains closed, and the crisis deepens. Neither Trump nor Trudeau shows signs of backing down. Trucks are idle, Alaska's supply chain is broken, and tensions escalate. A possible solution: pause the Ambler Road and tariff threats in exchange for reopening the border. But political pride stands in the way. The U.S. considers an airlift to Alaska, echoing the Berlin airlift, but it's costly and unsustainable. The standoff exposes the fragile interdependence of two allies. Will diplomacy prevail, or will retaliation spiral out of control? For Alaska and the continent, the stakes have never been higher.